want to get a little closer.
Across the planet, photographer Chris Rainier follows his lifelong mission to document the world's indigenous cultures.
Essentially them in their environment. And then just walk across the bridge. How did it look? Pretty good?
There's a big storm coming. So we got to get on the plane too now.
Now, Chris has a new challenge.
Can we try and figure this out?
A National Geographic assignment to document some of the world's most endangered languages.
The rain came, you wouldn't believe it.
A journey from the Pantanal of Paraguay to the rainforests of Papua New Guinea, where Chris must photograph language.
We might get it.
Can it be done?
This is a really hard photo shoot.
What will it take to get the shot? On the outskirts of Paraguay's capital, the small Macaw tribe still holds on to its tribal traditions and indigenous language. They're proud of these traditions, and photographer Chris Rainier wants to make sure those traditions are preserved.
You can just have them sit down there. Every 2 weeks, a language dies, an elder dies, and a whole understanding of the culture disappears. Okay, I'll have a look and figure this out from here.
Chris is the photographer for Enduring Voices, a 5-year National Geographic missions project to identify and preserve some of the world's most endangered languages.
And then, oh, look at me. I am not a linguist, but I have been photographing traditional cultures for most of my life. In the early 1980s, I was Ansel Adams' last photographic assistant, and really from him understood the power of photography as a social tool.
Fewer than 2,000 native Macaw speakers remain. A tiny island of traditional language surrounded by a sea of Spanish. The two linguists for Enduring Voices are David Harrison and Greg Anderson, building on what scholars already know of the Macaw language.
The world is losing its linguistic diversity. Out of the 7,000 languages spoken today, almost half of them are in danger of disappearing. What we're doing with the Enduring Voices project is traveling around the globe to visit language hotspots where languages are most in danger.
Isn't this where we lost all the linguists in one foul swoop?
Greg, David, and Chris have traveled to some of the most remote regions of the planet.
7,000 languages, roughly half of them are endangered. But actually the situation is much worse than even those numbers would say, because what we're looking at is about 9/10 of all different kinds of languages are going to disappear in this century.
The Enduring Voices team doesn't just document endangered languages. Their goal is to help indigenous peoples revitalize their languages and cultures.
I see it as a real race against time for me as a photographer to serve as a catalyst to help people to revitalize their traditions. There are many examples around the world where traditional cultures under threat have gone back to the archives of images that have been taken years ago and used those photographs to help revitalize their dances, their costumes, even their traditions.
In a remote Indian village, Greg and David make an important scientific discovery.
It is a tiny village.
A language not previously known to science.
Languages are repositories of knowledge that they contain an immense knowledge base about the world, the environment, human history, mythology, religion, all kinds of traditional wisdom. So we really are losing something quite important to humanity.
Paraguay is their latest challenge. Even with 2 years of fieldwork behind them, David knows Enduring Voices has barely scratched the surface.
Paraguay is a small country. but it has 19 languages. That is an incredible amount of language diversity. It's as much diversity as all of Western Europe.
The Enduring Voices team has been invited to witness a unique event, a shaman's ceremony banned by missionaries. Getting there requires a 2-hour flight into the heart of the Pantanal, the world's biggest tropical wetland.
No, you can come up the river.
Okay.
It's like 5 or 6 days up the river.
Gotcha.
Yeah, there's no roads.
Okay.
Many small languages are spoken by indigenous communities that have been marginalized, have been oppressed, have been overlooked or forgotten or neglected in various ways.
There are many traditional cultures that are in a quick pace of assimilation, but they've made that choice, and that is fine. We only go to places where we're invited.
The Chamacoco Indians live alongside the Paraguay River. Fewer than 2,000 remain, speaking the Ishir language. Chris and his colleagues set up camp in the village of Puerto Diana, home to the shaman who will lead the ceremony.
Presentarnos un poco brípulo al chamán de la comunidad.
What is happening with the shamans coming together? Apparently one shaman is coming as far away as 25 kilometers. He's walking here, so this is kind of a special occasion for them to come together.
¿De dónde vienen los chamanes que van a reunirse hoy aquí para preparar la danza?
Va a venir en 14 de mayo, va a subir en Puerto Caballo, acá en Puerto Diana, uno de Esperanza.
We give examples in sound, video, and still images, and all the written material.
Y eso va a quedar como un material acá de documento para la comunidad.
Neto.
The children in the community are the empowered decision makers. They decide if they're going to keep a language or abandon it. If the children and young people in the community have stopped speaking the language on a daily basis and have begun speaking a dominant language, Spanish, English, this is what we call language shift. It can happen very rapidly in just one generation.
But the Chamacoco are determined to keep their language and traditions alive. Children still learn Ishir in school.
No one can save a language except the people who own that language, the people who speak it themselves. But we try to figure out how can we support their efforts.
Photographs and recordings made by Enduring Voices are like a seed bank of language for the future, available when a new generation wants to revitalize its culture.
Hola.
Now the other shamans have arrived. Chris must convince them to let him photograph the ceremony.
This is a typical situation where you have to meet with the shamans, you gain permission, you talk about their trust and them trusting you, and then we're sort of in the process of negotiating, understanding what the protocol is to see if we can have a chance to photograph this. In addition, as a photographer, I'm also thinking through the light, what time of the day, are we allowed to do it in the afternoon? Can we do it into the evening? All of those technical things you have to kind of think through as a visual person, as a photographer.
A short trip downriver to check out where the ceremony will take place the next day, and a shaman who can't wait for the ceremony to begin.
It is an area where the church has had a huge presence and oppressed the indigenous people to a very large degree. What's so invigorating about where we go is that the church, in a way, has almost given up. So the shamans that were once forbidden to have their traditional dances and ceremonies are saying, let's have a ceremony. Let's have an event. The shaman sang almost the whole time, coming with us. It was great. And he walked all the way here. Amazing.
Language and culture are inseparable. Revitalizing both helps the tribe maintain its unique identity.
And will they be doing the whole entire ceremony? This is obviously going to be the spot where they're going to do the dance and the trees there, and then they will do the dances around this particular tree here. So he will spend the night here, and
all the shamans from each community will spend the night here, and they will receive the spirit.
Only men are allowed in the Forbidden Grounds. Once the ceremony's underway, the shaman and their assistants will move between the grove and the open area, where the whole tribe will witness a rebirth of their most sacred traditions.
and tomorrow will be the dances of those spirits.
Each day, the team records many hours of language and dozens of photographs. Everything must be checked and referenced. Evening is for homework.
Whenever we're out in the field and we're encountering a new language, I can barely sleep. I'm like completely manic. I want to work 24 hours a day. And so for me, this discovery process is invigorating, and I think I can't really describe the kind of high that you get from that.
When you go in to investigate a small language, you can be certain that their language contains a unique knowledge base about the local ecosystem. There's a linkage between species extinction and environmental degradation and the loss of knowledge as small languages go extinct.
The shamans are now deep into the ceremony. For the first time in years, they can demonstrate their traditional ceremonies for younger members of the tribe, passing them on to a new generation.
This is how we get dressed up. And when they come out and they start dancing around the fire, it will be to show it off to the community. We've had lots of rain today and thunder, and things have been changing all over the place, of course. So I was hoping to do the photo shoot in the sacred grove, but it's way too dark because it's overcast and about to rain again. So we're going to go out into the area where they dance, and hopefully I'll get the shot out there. This is a really hard photo shoot. For anybody that's traveled in those environments and tried to accomplish certain things like photographing or doing films, you know, things don't quite happen on a time schedule. So you kind of get a little frustrated, and then it starts raining, and then they run off into the forest because their feathers are getting wet, and it shuts the whole operation down. So the photo shoot got rained out. All of the roads are washed out because of this big storm that came through, and it's a long walk back to where we're staying. So we've hired a boat. We're rushing to get the boat because the sun is about to go down. So it's so funny, you have those photo shoots where whatever you do, you get a fantastic image and nothing fights you. And then you have those photo shoots where everything you do fights you. You're barely getting any images, certainly not fantastic images. So I think we just finished one of those days. It wasn't quite what I expected. It's just another day. We've got tomorrow. Hopefully tomorrow we'll get a good shot.
A new day presents Chris with a new and unexpected challenge.
He say they are ready to go now.
Right, that's we're clear.
And they will dance, and some of them, they have to come back.
So there's no way we can delay it to the end? This is the challenge. We've suddenly got them all ready. Light's not quite perfect. They want to go ahead and dance. We're trying to negotiate slowing down a bit.
They will stay.
Photography is this wildly elusive thing because if it was easy, I'd probably get bored. But it's elusive enough that every day you're out there stalking the image, trying to have all the combination of light and personality and culture and all of that come together. So often there's a lot of failure in the photographic process. And if they can just wait a little longer, a little, poco, 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 and then we can go out. But I won't lose all of them. You said some of them have to come back. Am I going to lose those?
The shamans are now deep into the ceremony. For the first time in years, they can demonstrate their traditional ceremonies for younger members of the tribe, passing them on to a new generation.
What I'm looking for is that iconic image that operates on multiple levels. So the photographs that I am attracted to are the shaman dances, the mask dances, the rituals, those moments where the shaman is dressed up in his mask dance and he is performing that connection to the other world. I like telling stories, so for me the camera becomes this platform, this foundation to unfold a whole story about a person, about a culture, about a dance, a ritual. It gives me a passport into things that I would never, ever be able to see unless I had that camera.
With documentation complete, the Enduring Voices team moves on. Their next stop is on the other side of the world. The Karawari region of Papua New Guinea is a remote, isolated place where the only access is by air or river.
The Karawari River Basin is a special place because it has a very dense mosaic of languages. So you can visit a small village and they're speaking one language. You can go 1 mile up the river and they're speaking an entirely different language.
More than 10% of humanity's known 7,000 languages are found in Papua New Guinea. The situation's much more critical than in Paraguay.
Some of these languages are healthy, but some of them are even more threatened than people previously thought.
Yokoim is spoken by just 2,000 people in 3 villages alongside the river. First stop is Kanmei village.
He gives orders. He's telling everybody to be quiet.
This is my uncle, his name is Benny. This is my father, his name is Moses. This is my wife, her name is Marilyn.
Nick Waikai, who was the village headman, said to us, we want someone to come and study our language and write a book on it. So that's a very specific request, and that's the kind of thing that we're equipped to respond to. Yokoim has definitely already begun the process of language shift, which means that young people really don't use it on a daily basis. They use Takpisin, which is the national language of Papua New Guinea, and they also learn English in school.
Enduring Voices can help, but it's the people of Kanmei village who must take responsibility for saving their Yokoim language. The local school teacher knows what will be lost if they don't.
We taught students in our own language to keep the culture of Yokoim language.
And what do you tell them? Why is it important to do that?
It is important because we need our language not to be extinct.
Can you tell us about this?
There is the olden our telephone garamut drum. His name is Mukwan.
So this specific drum is called Mukwan?
Yes, Mukwan.
Enduring Voices also studies the folklore along with the language. When these traditional stories are lost, part of the collective identity of the tribe goes with them.
The story of how a village man, he go under the water and find that Yokoim culture.
There's nothing I love more than being in a small remote village, listening to an elder tell a story in an endangered language.
Para ingat bena pabiang ablaring, kat bena pabiang ablaring. Yimbangat bra wangandi.
Louis Kolisi is a cultural activist in Kundaman village.
Coconut tree.
This is coconut tree, we call it yip.
He lives in two worlds, a traditional tribal culture and the 21st century. Enduring Voices can offer equipment and training to help his language and culture survive. Upriver is Yimas territory. With only 300 speakers and no Yimas school in the village, the language is on the road to extinction.
You come in, you're obviously from a Western culture. You want to ensure that you're really working on the same level as them. The key to successfully creating images that are meaningful is time. I always say the quality of the portrait is in direct proportion to the quality of the friendship that you establish. And we've just gotten wind that they can perform this amazing dance that hasn't been done in, they say, anywhere between sort of 10 to 15 years in this one village.
That's a bit of a risk, going in and asking people to perform a dance, because what you might get is simply culture repackaged for tourists. But I don't think that's what happened in Yimas village. In speaking to the headman of the village, he told us that there was an entire generation of young people in the village that had never seen this dance.
And that's what's most important, getting young people to accept that old traditions are worth saving.
There's a huge grassroots movement to revitalize their dying language, and it's often driven by the elders, looking over their shoulder and suddenly saying, we're the last ones here. What I find that's very exciting about this event is that it's a way of getting everybody excited in their traditional culture. When we come to the village and they see that this sort of Western group coming in with cameras and video cameras, wow, they're photographing our culture. Maybe we should pay more attention to it. 1 foot in the modern world, 1 foot still in the traditional world. My role is to photograph that traditional world while it still exists. Some of those young children that watch that dance will look at the images and go, you know what? We can do those dances again. Photography plays a role in helping revitalize cultures.